All right. Thank you, Greg. If you can move to the next slide, please. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the virtual Mule. My name is Jimmy Atia. I'm a strategic advisor director with the MuleSoft customer success team. Today, I have a very special speaker, my colleague, Gregory Clark. He's a strategic advisor director with the MuleSoft customer success team as well. He is also one of the composer specialists. And today, he will take us through an overview of the new MuleSoft product, the Composer. I'll let Greg introduces himself to you shortly, but let me first, as usual, start with the safe harbor statement. All right, as always, we are excited to share the latest MuleSoft innovations with you, which means we may talk about future-looking products and services, because future-looking statements are inherently subject to risk and uncertainty. Please be reminded that you should make any purchasing or investment decisions based on the products that are only available currently in the market. Next slide, please. I'll quickly go through some Meetup logistics. This session is recorded and a copy will be published to the Meetup page. All of the attendees are placed on mute upon entry. Feel free to post your questions at the chat and we will answer them as we go. We will have 2 trivia questions. It's 3, but only we have 2 for this session between segments, and the winners will be announced at the end. Instructions will be provided before the trivia questions for valid participation. Make sure you pay attention to those ones. Also pay attention to the content that will be shared with you guys so you can answer the questions. Each winner will get a voucher for a free MuleSoft course. All right. With that, I'll bounce it off to Greg to introduce himself and start the session. Greg, please take it away. If you can unmute yourself.
Yeah. Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. I am Greg Clark, as Jimmy mentioned, Jimmy's colleague in the customer strategy success.
Greg, we don't see your screen. We see the other screen. We don't see the presentation.
I'll come back to it. All right. So again, good morning. Yes. So as Jimmy mentioned, I'm Greg Clark. I'm excited to be here on the customer success strategy and architecture team. One of the roles that I'm is a field specialist for our Composer product. So I'm today to give you an overview of Composer. So what we're going to the Composer, what we call the value proposition. What that is, I want the team to understand the vision and the strategy, the reasoning why we developed and came to market with MuleSoft Composer. I'm going to go over a variety of different uses. I'm also going to talk about our out-of-the-box, our OOTB, that are available as of today. And they're critical, right? It's really bring the value to Composer because you need to be able to connect to systems to create these automated flows. Just paying attention, as Jimmy mentioned, we have trivia questions, so pay attention because the answer to the trivia questions is in the content being presented. And then I'll with a Composer demo as well. I set up it so folks can actually see the look and feel of Composer and see it in action. And then we'll open it up for a QA and announce the trivia winners afterwards as we close out. All right, so let's jump into it. So let's go ahead and jump into the value proposition. Why Composer? Why did we come out with Composer? Well, like as we release, our team looks across the market, our product and engineering teams, really understand what the market demands are in different areas. And what we're seeing here, as we know, the demands on IT continue to accelerate at a very in business teams, right? Yeah, the various lines of business and in organizations. as you see here in the graphic on the right, from HR to marketing to sales and support and other LOBs, they require more business process automation, requests of IT resources. As you can see, continues to grow at a rapid pace, and you can see one of these last statistics is of IT leaders continue to report the importance of the need for across the organization. Okay, so focus. This is what it's doing over time. For those in the Meetup familiar, you're familiar with this IT gap that's getting created, right? As you can see, the demand on the x-axis compared to time on the y-axis. Over time, it hasn't increased, right? IT resources typically don't increase of technology at the scale of business demands. And you can see all these new technologies and these paradigm shifts. You can see the impact on IT teams and the demand for IT capacity, right? Going back to first cloud and then software as a service, right up through mobile things, artificial intelligence. And now what we're talking about is around business, right? Business team coverage when it comes to this IT delivery. Is one way that we can shrink this. Rather than continuing to put IT deliver, why not collaborate, right? Why not partner where it makes with business teams to actually provide some coverage IT delivery gap. And that's what you see over here on the right of this graphic. Collaborating with IT, okay? And, these are both the business and IT can win when we collaborate, right? If you look at what we call co-innovation, right? Working together, and being more successful to deliver business process and business automation to organizations. The business benefits because these demands of IT, but by collaborating with IT, projects faster because they can take on some of that work, and yet they can still access, which is obviously that's a important critical success factor for. In the IT also benefits. IT can complete the projects faster. At the same time, they're providing and governing and data to the business, as well as the ability to monitor impact to the overall business. So by collaborating together, both business and IT can work to shrink that and deliver more innovation quickly. How are we targeting this with MuleSoft? Well, we're targeting it with our, I'm sure everybody on this call is very familiar with our best platform, right? That is our fully managed, full feature IT API platform for design, delivery, and monitoring and governing for integrations and API. Right? Now on the right, what we're introducing business teams that to co-innovate with IT, we're introducing MuleSoft. So let me stop there for a second and just give everybody a little heads up to a little hit. So MuleSoft Composer was launched probably now. We originally made MuleSoft Composer available for our Salesforce customers. So we introduced that version. Now it's the same exact product. It's just at launch, it was only made available for Salesforce customers in their Salesforce clouds. That came out February 2021. And then in November of this year, so about 5-6 months ago, we released MuleSoft Composer. New customers as well as our Anypoint customers, because it's a standalone product. It can be subscribed to by anybody, and it's to create unleashing innovation. As you can see here, fast and easy without code. Refer to it as creating automations, creating integrations with code. Okay. And here you get a snapshot over here on the right of what the UI looks like when you start building a flow in Composer. Point and click. It's very graphical in terms of choosing systems you want to integrate with. And that, as you can see here, the value proposition in this case is being able to and data quickly. Some of the ways we're hearing from business teams is expect their apps to connect to each other. We refer to it as solving for what you call, quote unquote, swivel chair problem. First, the user will enter data into one system, and then they got to swivel around that same data into another system. So Composer is a great to help stop and help automate those types of integrations. These productivity. You can see here we can also create a more holistic customers faster by integrating these systems with these connectors. What you're seeing over here on the right, this is what we refer to as connectors. Sheets, Slack. I'm going to go into more detail on the latest set of connectors soon. But it's all about, the value proposition is all about streamlining these across an enterprise. And we're going to do a deeper dive on what we mean about streamlining this here shortly. Okay, so that's the value. As you can see, for IT, we have Anypoint Platform, robust integration platform as a service solution, life cycle of API design and development, and business, we have Composer. Okay, and as I mentioned earlier, this day and age, business teams, they just expect apps to be able to connect to each other. Data from one, obviously, to inform data in another application. So a much more simpler type of integration than more seasoned developers and MuleSoft developers are used to. And this sales, they want to solve for an inventory a use case. Orders in Salesforce. So they want to check inventory when customers are. For support, right? Automating support tickets, especially if there are known defects, being able to log a defect ticket in Jira, and then to a Slack channel so that people can work on resolving that. For HR, having a background in HR and human capital systems for many years, I know one of the biggest processes we've always was a new employee onboarding, right? Typically when recruited and onboarded into a talent management system here, like Workday, that number of processes, now the employee mobile phone, the employee needs a laptop, the employee needs access to several different systems to start performing their work. Well, think of automated using a tool such as Composer. And then marketing, right? This is an example of provide marketing that they can visualize in Tableau every week. So they want to be able to get data from Salesforce and provide that data, that sales conversion data, Tableau each week, so they can have these nice visualizations that they can on their sales programs. So, and this is just a couple of cases, but what's important here is that Composer supports use cases across organizations, lines of business. I just want to go in detail. I'm not going to detail, but this is to give you a broader picture of the potential is that lines of business, these business users can solve using Composer. We support streamlining sales operations, enhance experience around new hire orientation and provisioning of resources, foster more team collaboration, right? We can do a lot of this through chat applications and such. So there's a that can also be done. The demo I'm going to do later around Slack communications across the team as well. And of course, streamlining service and support. Previous slide about getting a ticket out of a ServiceNow application that automatically generate a defect ticket in Jira for to take a look at. So again, a lot of potential business use cases. So you may ask, how many systems, how many different can a Composer user connect to? Since we've rolled out, I think we had about 6 connectors. As you can see here, as of now, we have 8 available across these different systems. And as you can see, we're intentionally targeting different areas, different lines between HR and sales, financials, with Jira, as well as collaboration tools like as well as exporting data to Google and Tableau. You can see we have a few more coming. We continue to roll out connectors monthly. So in terms of where we are in terms of maturity, we're just getting started. This is to grow. Just some key numbers to be aware of. A safe harbor statement in place. We currently have about 200 customers globally as of today, and we expect for that number to be well over 1,000 customers by the end of this fiscal year. So we see a lot of great feedback coming back from our current Composer, and we see a lot of excitement with this growing product. Okay, one thing to remember is a line, if you will, just as is depicted here, right? It's built. Composer is purpose built for line of business users. Depicted on the right, LOB. Anypoint platform is purpose built as it always has been for IT, right? IT requires flexibility, right? Flexible deployment models, on-prem infrastructure as a service, or a fully managed iPad, right? Scalability, a robust architecture, as I was talking about. IT requires strong governance and strong security. And that's all point platform and the reason it was built. So for Composer, right, has to be easy to use. So there has to be a lot of tooling added. It has to be very friendly, have a lot of in UI help. It has to return time to value very quickly. Collaborative, right? Again, it's not, Composer will never replace platform, and it's not meant to replace any point platform. It's meant to be a tool that users can use and collaborate with IT on. So how do we differentiate? This is a great slide that for those of you that are really familiar with the endpoint platform, again, value and our value statement is around reusable assets, publishing content into Exchange, and following our API-led connectivity approach, supports the asset reuse and time to value. We offer very deep insights with our monitoring capability. And as I mentioned, it's flexible. It can be deployed across different deployment models, whether it's infrastructure as a service, Kubernetes, hub, as well as on-premise. And how can they exist in together, right? When it's Anypoint plus Composer. Remember, Composer is going to build on top of that composable enterprise that Anypoint already enables, right? Now, Composer is going to provide ease of use for the. It's also going to provide peace of mind for IT, because with IT knowing that there's less quote IT going on, or a lot of work being done offline in spreadsheets and such. Now that it can be automated through a tool like Composer, so it's flexible. You use the right product for the right use case, and so Composer is just supporting more of those use cases. And then for Composer only customers, feedback, it has been great. It's designed to be easy to use. Our customers are confirming that for us. You need to be a developer. We have a lot of content already available that Composer users get up to speed quickly with using. We have it across all of our learning platforms. You can go out to I am one of several people that have been creating a lot of video enablement content to help customers connect, to help customers understand the basics of how to map fields between different systems. So there's a lot of that content that found online already, and it's fast. It's meant to be fast, getting automated quickly without having to wait, for certain requirements around IT teams, and it's meant to be collaborative. Some examples of that coming up here shortly, but it's meant to make business collaborate and work more successfully with IT. Again, just a reminder of our safe harbor statement. This is a future vision. This is something that's being worked on right now with is the idea that, we have business teams, Composer UI, our Composer application over here on the left, and we have our Anypoint platform over here on the right. And we expect the two products, these two solutions, to just connect. There's not going to be a requirement to upgrade. And what that brings me to let the team know that Composer does not sit within your work, all right? And that's by design, and it never will. Composer is a completely separate product. It spins up for deployment. Think of it as another organization from your Anypoint platform organization, okay? And we're shortly, probably within the next 6 months, by legal terms in safe harbor, that I can't get more specific than, but know that this feature, this capability of and sharing data and sharing assets from the Anypoint to Composer is coming, okay? So it sets off in your mind thinking, well, how are these architected? What is level reference architecture look for Composer as it complements the Anypoint platform? So as I mentioned, Composer for business has two different purpose-built UIs. As I mentioned, we rolled out MuleSoft Composer for Salesforce, which allows to be rendered inside a Salesforce cloud user interface, Salesforce browser interface. And then in November, we launched this, what I call MuleSoft Composer, which renders MuleSoft Composer in a browser. Okay, so they're very complementary use cases. And look that, note that the use cases, everything is the same. This difference when I talk about MuleSoft Composer for Salesforce and MuleSoft Composer, where is it, rendered in a user's browser? Is it in a cloud UI, or is it just rendered in a regular browser user interface? Beneath that, everything is exactly the same. So all abilities, all the assets are they're not shared to either UI. And note that they the same platform. Behind the scenes, Composer is any other Mule runtime. It uses the same Anypoint platform that Anypoint platform users use today. So MuleSoft Composer runs on our Mule runtimes, fully Cloud Hub solution, and as it runs in a managed environment only. So that's the big difference between Anypoint Platform, which can run deployment models, as in this last build of this slide. So for any still you can build your robust Anypoint applications. It uses API Designer. All management is through the runtime manager. Full IT capabilities and assets that everybody on this meetup is aware of. And note that here's the difference, is that it can cloud or it can run on premises. Okay, so this is how it's built platform, and this is how we differentiate the business teams and its use on the left. Okay, so that's going to end the content section. I hope everyone's paying attention. We'll go through the trivia questions before the demo, and then that way Jimmy's going to help record the winners and everything. So let's go ahead. I'm going to introduce the trivia questions.
Okay. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah.
Bounce to the next question. Do you mind if I take it from here? No, can you go to the previous slide, please?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so just so for the small group attending this meetup, this is the rule for the winners. So please ensure that you provide only one answer in the chat. After I state all the questions and all the options, I also will type "go now" in the chat. So the first right answer after the "go now" message that I will post in the chat will be considered. You can only type A, B, C, D. You don't have to put the full answer in there. All right, with that, let's go to the first question. Which benefit was not a business benefit of IT and business co-innovation? The options are A, collaborate with IT, B, launch projects faster, C, complete IT projects faster, D, access data safety. You can type your answers now. We'll give it a couple of seconds.
Sure.
All right. Next question, Greg. Trivia question number 2. How many connectors are currently available for Composer? "25, 18, 31, 12. Yeah, please go after the "go now" message. All right, thank you. I will announce the winners towards the end. Greg, please take it back for the demo.
Sure, thank you. I am just going to Teams, give me a minute or so to get all set up, make sure I'm logged into my systems. All right. And then there's this one. Okay. It's all right. Let me log in real quick. Okay, team. Let me go back and start sharing my screen. Okay, how's the screen?
Yes, I can see, Greg. It's the text is a little bit small, but I think, yeah, if you can zoom a bit, that would be great.
How do where do I do that? Under Chrome?
The three dots towards your picture in Chrome. If you go up, right close to your picture, yeah, you can zoom. Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
Is that better?
much better.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Zoom, so I appreciate you reminding me. All right, so team, I am logged in Composer. Okay. And what I want to demo for everybody is use case around service cases. So it's this synchronization cases with Slack, right? So the reason I'm choosing this one, I'm going to click. You can actually see this flow. So within MuleSoft Composer, you have to do when you're creating a new flow, you have to define the trigger. There's two distinct, and I don't refer to it as an action. Within a composer flow, a trigger and an action. A trigger. Think of what has to happen in a source system. If you think as source and target, right? The trigger event is what that has to happen in a source system so that my flow. So in this case, what this flow demonstrate is that anytime a new case, right, we have an event on object type case in Salesforce. So the trigger I've created is based on my Salesforce connection. So is connecting to Salesforce, my Salesforce instance, and a new record of object type case gets created. I want to perform an action. So let me scroll down. So I've built my flow Salesforce, and anytime I have a new record of object type case, I go ahead and what I want to do is I want to alert support team through our Slack channel that, hey, I want to make everybody on my customer support team available. There's a new case that's come in and it's a high priority. Every time when this flow is active, it's going this case object in Salesforce, and then it's going to. What I've set it up to execute is I've used an if else block. So anytime I have a case, right, it says all conditions must be met in condition. Anytime I have a case with a to high, I am then going to take an action. See my step, it's not a trigger. It's the action I want to take in a target system. System in this case being Slack. So I want this flow to connect to Slack, and I want it to post a message to a channel. Channel name, and I want to provide this. I've created this message. As you can see, it's a custom message of text, as well as fields from my case created in step 1, which was my trigger step. I'm going to post this new case of case number here, the reason, and the status. So for me to do that, what I had one is I had to make sure I selected 5 fields so I can build that message. So if I were to click on select fields, you can see here returns all the fields from the case record or the case object. But for purposes of my demo, for purposes of my use case, selecting 5 to have available to me in the. Now, if I need them all, I can absolutely add all of them. But for purposes of this demo, I use case number, case origin, case reason. Come down. I've also selected the priority and the status because that information that I want to have just Slack channel as part of my message. The Composer Flow canvas is, as you make your connection, put in your object type of record, you can see that you know that you're working as part of your flow design, as part of your flow progression. That over here in the sample output, it's showing you what the sample data is going. So this is a good indication that I am building my flow correctly. It's nice to have this type of guidance and this type of results available inside the Composer canvas, especially for line of business users may have less experience when it comes to understanding data models. They can actually interact with the type of data that's being shown in the sample output, because this connection's already been made. So now, for me to demonstrate this,
Greg, can I ask a question here?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what is the credential information? Like the information will be posted on Slack. So where the user would configure the credentials to log into Slack before posting the message? Is it going to be like a service account or something?
Yeah, good question. Good question. I'll show both. For this, I didn't go into how you create these connections, but let me show the team. What Jimmy's referring to is, see under here, I have a connection, and under my Slack connection, I also have a connection established. Oh, I didn't want to do that. NTO Slack connection. It's important to know that when you connect to these systems, there's info to ask you for that you need to collect before you build these flows. So continue with this one. Let me come back over here to overview, and let me demonstrate. So let me go into create a flow. So connect to Salesforce to flow rather than use an example, which I'm using for my demo. You can also choose to add a new sales. So for this, it's going to ask me for a connection display name. I want to give it an easily identifiable display name like Sandbox Salesforce connection, right? And then you would click on create. Click on create. For Salesforce, you need, as a user, to successfully establish this connection, you need to have username and password. Okay. So I'm not going to already establish my connections. So but for this example, when you connect to Salesforce, have a username and password already for your Salesforce connection. Okay. And now let me other one here. Can I show Slack? Now, show Slack here, and this is another good thing to know. Remember, I mentioned two things, two major events within a Composer flow, which is the very first event, and then there's an action. In this case, you don't see Slack here because Slack isn't supported as a trigger event. Slack is only supported as an action, meaning you can only integrate data to Slack, not from. Okay, so let me see if I do this. I can come back to my other flow and demo that. And let's come to the bottom of this. See, it's testing my sure everything still works, which is always nice. Let me do this. So see now you can see as a next step, I can also select Slack. To Slack, in adding a new Slack connection, you would have to provide and then all the credentials. So let me kind of demo that real quick. if I click on create, now look what it's going to ask me for. As a prerequisite, before you can connect to Slack, you need to have your workspace set up in Slack. And then after that, you can using your workspace credentials. In my case, it's my MuleSoft credentials. So meaning, let me do this. Let me come out of here. For you to complete creating this Slack connection over here in Slack, here's my NTO connection. It's called customer support. And let me see. Oh, I want to sign out of it. You can see that this is my NTO slack.com. So before you forward with creating these connections, the prerequisites so that you establish the connections by collecting parameters. Now they vary by connector. So questions about how to connect to Salesforce or how to connect to Slack or NetSuite. NetSuite's a very popular connection. Any of those supported connections, you could go to docs.mulesoft.com and then there's the other doc. There is a connectors reference set of documents which will tell you what all these prerequisites are. If you like to read, a better way that I recommend looking for that information is, let me see if I can log in here real quick. For those of you with training logins, I recommend these videos or these presentations. Like for instance, this one, connecting Stripe to Slack. This will have all the step-by-step instructions for how you and all the documentation. So and we grow out this library of training documentation as well. Between docs.mulesoft.com, look for Composer, look for that will tell you everything you need to know in terms of what you have to collect for or what you have to perform in a certain system before you can in Composer. Does that help?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go ahead. What I want to show everybody is how this runs. So once you've saved your flow, then you can test it. You can test it right from here. So on test in a second. And once I hit test, it's going to do is it's going to deploy this flow, a test environment, and it's going to give me 10 minutes. It's going to give me 10 minutes to trigger this event in Salesforce, or it's going to give me 10 depending on the use case. But in this case, my trigger. So what it means is I need to go create a record, and I want to make sure my record of high, a case record, so that this. And if I do it right and it triggers successfully, it's going to my customer support channel in Slack with this. This is what I want to demo for the team. So here we are. I'm going to go ahead and click on. You can see it saves. It's waiting for the test to start.
So what's happening behind the scene here, Greg? Is it creating a VM and deploying the project?
It's not a VM. It's a Mule runtime microservice on our Cloud Hub infrastructure. Just did was it just deployed sync service cases with Slack as time.
Okay.
Does that help?
So yeah, VM, just a microservice on an existing set of structure. Does that help?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna navigate over here. So remember, my trigger event is in. I have to create a case with a priority of high. So logged into my my series. I'm just going to type on cases. I have my cases. It shows me my recently viewed cases, but I remember it's on a new record. So I go over here to my cases and select to create a new case. I'm just going to put in the required information. So I know I need to enter a status of new. Case origin. Have as email. We'll enter email. Now remember, for this flow, priority of high, because that's my if-else condition, is if the priority is high. And I also want to enter a case reason. So we will say it's for, okay. And I'm just going to quickly, I'm going to press save. So my new case was created. Now if I come back, my new case was created. We're going to wait for this, for my composer flow to pick up that trigger event. So you can see it saved 2 minutes ago. The test finished. We have a green box, which is what we want. That means our flow was triggered successfully. And now from within the flow, you can actually see the flow detail result test. You can see that this step one, this trigger event executed. We have a green check mark. And then you can actually, in the if-else block, you can tell what part of an if-else block executed by the blue banner, the blue outline. So this shows that flow successfully picked up that my priority equaled high. So what did it do? It posted a message to the Slack channel, and it provided this message. So, and you can see this was successful, or I should say this action was successful, because again, it has the green. So just to now, so let's go look at the results. You saw me enter source. So now if I come over here to my Slack TO workspace under customer support, you can see that as of PM Eastern time, my MuleSoft platform Slack update that, hey, to the customer support team, we have a new 74 new problem, priority of high, status of new. That shows the demo as of how it works. So let me come back. Come back to my MuleSoft Composer overview, and you can see 6 service cases with use case. You can see it was last modified. Now, note what I want to is run history. Like for all of our flows, a running history. Every time your flows execute, activate them. We're in test mode. So if I come back to edit mode, so we're just performing testing of this right now. So when from the life cycle perspective, you've successfully tested your flows and you go live in production, if you will, as a user, you would, okay, and you would be notified that your flow is active. And then from then on, once your flow is active, when you open up your flow, you'll be able to see your run history. It tells you down here. You'll see it once you activate your flow. Okay. So with that, let me We come back to our presentation over here. And let's step. Just a summary slide on resources. Team, supplementary to these meetups, what the Composer and Composer Customer Success team have done is on our meetups, if MuleSoft Composer, you're going to see a running log of where if you have questions or you just want to listen into customers are talking about, and they're usually attended by one or more managers for Composer to help answer questions. So they're very helpful. You bookmark the MuleSoft Composer meetup link, and note that I also am running a video enablement series where we're walking through some of the most common practices Composer customers will step through to get up and running with Composer. And as they get scheduled and we deliver them, they'll be posted on that URL. And then note that if you ever need any help with Composer customers, support is also available through help.mulesoft. Okay. This is a good link because I think we have almost articles already published as part of organization continuing to provide support for our Composer. Okay. And with that said, open it up for Q&A, and I think we have Q&A left, and then Jimmy's going to announce the trivia one. That's it.
Thank you, Greg. That was really smooth. Thank you for the presentation and the demo. Actually, we have only one question in the chat asking about how to migrate to a higher environments. So I guess you touched on a little bit when you did the test and the activate. Can you elaborate on the concept of environments within Composer?
Yeah. So yeah, and I can answer that in two ways. So this is where it's a little bit different. Well, first of all, let me explain it for regular for MuleSoft customers, meaning MuleSoft Force customers. It's going to be a little bit different. So let me explain it first. Composer customers. So for MuleSoft Composer, the nuances that come in between test and production, it all has to do with those connections. Remember, I was showing how to create those connections to your environments, whether it's a sales environment, a NetSuite environment, anything like that, right? You would, I mentioned that you want to have easily identifiable connection. So you would first create a connection to a test environment, and then you would connection to a production environment. Okay. Designing and building your flows, your connections are to your environments, your test environments. And then when you're all done testing, then before you activate, you want to change those connections to your production environments. That's how you would move from to a production phase. It all has to do with changing your connections, test environment connection to a production environment connection. Now that's a step deeper. And the new feature that's come, I mentioned is collaborating more with you'll be able to insert a step into your production where IT can review the Composer prior to allowing it to be released or activated into production. So that will be added to the lifecycle. And it's covered. But that's all I can say about that because it is forward-looking. MuleSoft Composer for Salesforce customers, there's a little bit of a nuance. Just up front, when MuleSoft Composer for Salesforce customers are provisioned, their application is only provisioned in your product, whether that's a production sales cloud or a production service or a production marketing cloud. So Composer, the application, is going to sit in your production org or okay. And then what those customers do is when they connect to a Salesforce cloud, for instance, just point to, they would use their user login credentials, Salesforce sandbox URL to connect to a, and then before they go live, they would change those connections to production environments. So it's just a little bit difference knowing that Composer, the MuleSoft Composer for Salesforce is only provisioned in a production Salesforce cloud. That's the only difference. In that, it's the same. Connect to your test environments, test them. Before you click activate, change those connections to your production environments. Does that help?
Yeah. So the concept of migration is not really there. It's just changing the connection to just point differently, right? That's the
Perfect.
conclusion.
Well said, Jimmy.
Okay.
There's no migration. There's activation. You just change the connection from sandbox to prod.
Okay. We just got another question in the chat. So is there any MUnit equivalent in Composer?
No, there isn't. No.
Okay.
It's it requires that I just took.
Okay. Yeah. I have another question from my side, Greg. Now that business users will be mainly the ones who will be using this tool, I know in the future there will be some governance and IT will be able to approve those flows. But for now, what could prevent those business users from creating performance-heavy integrations? Or is there any kind of governance or limitation that can be can govern this process in any way?
No, in terms of once they hit activate, business user hits activate, it's going to deploy. Now, this is all done behind the scenes. This is completely transparent, but the Composer product itself charged for CPUs. Let me put it that way. Charged for resources, and those flows are not consuming resources. Point platform customers, it is possible. The way Composer works, right? Per transaction basis, right? So could it, if there are tens of thousands of new records maybe being updated, that I could see that. I still don't see it causing a like on the connector side, like on the systems. MuleSoft Composer itself will be certain performance algorithms that are programmed into it. So I haven't seen or heard of any performance issues yet either. So I know.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
I know it's not a full answer, but MuleSoft, as the Composer runtimes themselves, they'll scale to meet demand elastically and transparently. All of that is hidden from the users by design, right? It's a fully managed product. We, as the vendor, we're responsible for making sure that the Composer flow itself is performant, but I don't believe it would pose a performance hit on target or source systems either, because all the work is being done in our Cloud Hub platform.
Okay, cool. And is there any limitation on the number of flows the business users can create, Greg?
No, there's no limit. There are some limits. So Composer has two different editions right now. There's a basic subscription that I think is like 27. Don't quote me on this, but
Yeah,
it's
sure.
$30,000. And where you're limited in the number of connectors you can use. I think you're limited to a Salesforce connector, a Slack connector, and maybe three others. I think it's 5 connectors. And then
Yeah.
there's an unlimited connections, which gives customers access to all of our connectors. And that's a little bit more. But again, the reason I don't like to give out pricing is something that is provided for and communicated by our sales teams. But
Yeah, of course.
I mean, in terms of comparing it to how much our Anypoint platform is, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars. Put it that way.
Yeah, cool.
But
Yeah, of
no,
course, that's understood. Yeah, so basically it's like kind of based on the user entitlement, based on the customer entitlement. They would have like different level of subscription, and it would adhere from that point.
Correct.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think we're getting one more question. I think maybe you touched on it, but yeah. So any HL7 or FHIR compatible and fintech connectors available currently in Composer?
No, not in
I,
Composer. For those types of requirements, you need to go to Anypoint platform.
okay, okay. Yeah, I think you only mentioned only 18 connector for the time being, and
Correct.
maybe a few coming the way. All right, cool. Perfect. I think that's it. We are ahead of time. Let me share my screen to start the last section of this meetup, which is the trivia winners. Unfortunately, we have a small group for the meetup today. So let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Cool. All right. So trivia question for the first one, which benefit was not a business benefit of IT and business co-innovation? And the right answer is is C. And unfortunately, we didn't have any winner for this question. Greg, do you wanna elaborate on this answer?
Yeah, exactly. So, if you remember back in the slide deck, one of the first slides we talked about were the benefits of the business versus IT. So the business benefits that were listed with the other three, being able to collaborate with IT to launch projects faster and access data safely. One of the IT benefits was that you could complete IT projects faster.
Cool.
So that's why I said it's not a business benefit; it's an IT benefit of co-innovation.
Yeah, clear. All right, so cool. Next question. How many connectors are currently available for Composer? The answer is clear. It's 18. And the winner for this question is Mohammed Yaqub. Congratulations, Mohammed. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it for us. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you, Greg, for the great presentation and the demo. I hope it was useful for all of the audience. To get access for more of those meetups, we have many recordings for meetups we did in the past. Please visit meetups.mulesoft.com and search for the Edmonton or Calgary meetup groups. You should find a few of the MuleSoft meetups we did for these two meetup groups, like API and microservices. We touch on RTF as a deployment model, also a deep dive into RTF security. We also covered topics around error handling, testing best practices, Catalyst Accelerator for banking, and a few more. Also, feel free to explore other meetup groups across the world. You should find a lot of topics covered to help, provided by MuleSoft architects to help the MuleSoft community. All right, so that's all for today. I will submit the winner to the Meetup admins. So Mohammed, you should be contacted soon by the Meetup admins. They will contact you on your email that you used for the registration process. Perfect. Thank you all. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you again in the next meetup. Thank you, Greg. All right. Goodbye,
Great.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you.